This is the Inner Chief Podcast, episode 330.
I just want to make sure the right people get the right things in the right way. And I also want to make sure that people like you and me could have an absolutely direct impact on a disaster event that's happening overseas. So, there's a flood in Bangladesh. I don't want you to post your microwave over there. I want you to just spend $50 and buy one locally. And it's a donation, which is great, but you're literally buying a microwave locally, which will be in their local language with the local cords on the end of it, so it works in their home. And they have the warranty, and the local business is doing well now.
G'day, this is the Inner Chief Podcast, episode 330. And our guest today is Juliette Wright OAM, founder and former CEO of GIVIT, on revolutionising undesirable charitable giving, having a million conversations, and leading into anxiety.
I am your host, Greg Layton, founder of Chiefmaker and the Council of Chiefs, and I believe there is a great chief in all of us, and that through listening to the stories, strategies and techniques of great CEOs, each of you can find and leave your own legacy through your work. The Inner Chief Podcast is where you will learn how to think and make moves like a CEO. For over a decade, I've helped CEOs and senior executives around the world boldly lead change, inspire their people, and leave a legacy. So every 2 weeks, I'll bring a deep dive interview with one of these CEOs or another one of a mid to large organisation so you can find your own path to greatness as an executive.
In this episode, I chat to Juliette Wright OAM. Juliette is an Australian social entrepreneur who has devoted herself to alleviating poverty and addressing crises since founding GIVIT in 2009. What started as a simple desire to donate baby clothes evolved into the creation of a groundbreaking world-first platform that offers efficient and effective disaster relief across Australia. Under Juliette's leadership, GIVIT grew into one of the country's largest and most successful donation platforms, garnering endorsements from government bodies and facilitating over 8.5 million donations and supporting over 4,500 not-for-profit organisations nationally during crises and disasters. Her experience in developing innovative IT platforms, navigating stakeholder government relations, and managing rapid growth has positioned her uniquely to now lead and be the CEO of Recovere, a global social enterprise that supports international communities to manage donations post-crisis. She has been recognised with countless awards, including being named Australian of the Year Local Hero in 2015 and receiving the Order of Australia Medal OAM in 2019. Today you're going to hear Juliette talk all about the origins of GIVIT, which was born out of addressing the negative side of donations, how she handled the million conversations rule of social enterprise and getting past bureaucracy, why and how she leans into anxiety in order to be happy, and her new role with Recovery in solving the biggest headache in disaster events. Now, Chief, do you find yourself at work in one of those incredibly stressful moments where you've got someone on your team that either isn't performing or is behaving poorly, and you know deep down that it needs a difficult conversation? One of those ones that can keep you up at night. You know, if you get wrong, there's going to be HR issues, but you know, if you get right, it could actually be a little bit career defining. It will make life so much better for so many people, but you just keep putting it off and off and off. Well, Chief, we've created the ultimate resource for you. It is called Difficult Conversations. Download, it's not hard, but what's in it is what's most powerful. The mindsets, the frameworks, and even some of the scripts, the words to use to make those conversations much more easy. Just go to chiefmaker.com/difficult and you could download the full resource right there. Chief, before we get into today's episode, if you would like to nominate a CEO as guest of this show, drop us a line with your nominated guest on info@chiefmaker.com.au and we'll check out and see if they are the kind of chief we want to have on our show. Chief, without any further introduction, let's hear from the remarkable Juliette Wright OAM. Righto, Chiefs, I'm here with the wonderful Juliette Wright, social entrepreneur, founder and director of GIVIT, CEO of Recovere. Juliette, welcome to the Inner Chief.
Thank you so much for having me. And big shout out to Nat Cook for recommending me. I'm really glad.
Yes,
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Natalie. A wonderful, wonderful guest she was. Hey, Juliette, we have a great tradition at the Inner Chief. We love to know where our guests come from. Can you tell a bit of a story that sums up your childhood and early life?
I lived in Brisbane all my life, but I had the most incredible grandmother and family in Ireland. So I was lucky every 18 months to go home. But one year, when I was about 16, my parents weren't able to go. So I decided that I was going to go by myself, via some friends in Zimbabwe. Yeah, wow. Mugabe was still troubling then. He was in his beginning of his troubles then. And then I came home via a different country. But when I was there, I had such an incredible bond with my grandmother. It made other people jealous. And she remembered me really well. Even through her Alzheimer's, we had such a close bond. But because my parents weren't there, my uncle Joe sat me down one day and told me about what happened after the fundraising event of Live Aid. They created billions and millions of dollars with all those incredible artists from all over the world. And he said to me, it only fed Africa for 3 days. But what it did do is it brought a huge amount of attention to the need there. So people donated lots of food. And he remembers that he said yes to an incredible pasta donation. And they were like, yes, we'll take all that pasta. But what arrived was only lasagna sheets. Millions and millions of boxes of lasagna sheets. Wow. And I just want you to think, Greg, how much can you do with a lasagna sheet? You can ground it down. You can break it up. Anyway, he's still to this day, because I was making him pasta that night, and he said, no, I'm not going to be able to eat pasta probably for the rest of my life. So that's when I started to be really interested in giving, but giving well. And, you know, I wonder, I was curious, but didn't find any research. People weren't talking about the negative side of even good giving. And I was just curious my whole entire life after that conversation and watching in disasters, watching things play out. So that particular trip was really memorable for me, and I think it's had a lasting impact on my life.
What was your first ever job?
My dad built and ran a Clear Mountain Health Lodge, which is about 25 minutes up the range. And I was getting cash in hand for being a porter and anything. I was anything to anyone because we were understaffed and it was a startup. He used to run health programs and so detox programs. So I just used to basically welcome guests and help them to their rooms and get their needs met.
Yeah, wow. And your first ever car?
Oh, it's the worst. It's a Nissan Datsun Bluebird cream wagon. I can tell you it was the most embarrassing car. But the freedom that I had inside the car it's very hard to get there. It was a massive amount of freedom. But when I got out of the car, I was like, oh, anyway, now I have lots of nice cars. So and I like the color of my car now. And so I really love cars. A Nissan Datsun Bluebird wagon.
What color?
Cream.
Oh, what a beauty.
Man, it had carpet. It even had mercury in part. It was just the worst. Dad must have done a deal with one of his patients because it was embarrassing, and I had it for a long time.
Wow. So before GIVIT, just a few minutes on how your career started. So you're in a sort of a place where you can think about something like GIVIT.
I dabbled in a few things. I did marketing and commercial art. I really love design. And then I kind of moved into fashion illustration, but I wasn't a good drawer, and dibble-dabbled for a year or so. It's kind of like my gap year. I did lots of short courses.
Yeah, right.
And then one day I just started collecting herbs and listening to stuff that Dad was talking about, because my dad was a GP, but he also specialized in vitamin C and B injections way before it was cool. And so he's been doing that for 40, 50 years. My granddad was a big believer in vitamin C before anybody was talking about it. And so when I rang Dad one day and I said, I'm actually going to be a naturopath and a nutritionist. He didn't talk for about 5 minutes. Apparently he was swinging the phone around his head. He was so happy. And he had the patience of a saint, because what I would do, the great thing about being a naturopath is that you did courses, you did, biology over 4 courses. You just had to do them in the right order. So when I wanted to go home to Ireland for 6 months, it was really easy to go and take care of my nana when she started getting dementia. And so it was really good, but it took me 7 years to become a naturopath and a nutritionist. So I took my time. That would normally have taken 4.5, 5 years. I ended up getting a Bachelor of Health Science. I just want you to know I took my sweet time. But when I did study, I would study like 5 to 10 subjects instead. I'd go hard.
Yeah, okay. Well, we might see that come out later in your career, that particular trait. So let's talk about the nexus of GIVIT. What was the moment thought we need a different solution here? But what happened that led to that?
Well, firstly, I actually didn't want to go back to be a naturopath because I burnt out all the time. I'm not an empath, I'm a sympath. So when I ended up specializing in autoimmune diseases and cancers, because I kind of aligned with Dad and loved working with Dad, and we specialized in desperates. So with him with the medical background and me with the new kind of nutritional knowledge, we worked really well together and separately. But I ended up actually really seeing a lot of people who were really on the down and out. They'd been through the medical system and they hadn't got a solution, and some of them were dying, and it didn't go down well with me. So I knew the moment that I'd had children that I wanted to work, I wanted to help people. That was only what I was going to do. But I just didn't want to work directly with them because I didn't have the emotional net. I didn't have the Teflon, I just wasn't. I just took on everything. And so I burnt out all the time and had to take time off frequently, and was never going to make a lot of money out of that anyway, because I only wanted people to get what they needed. And sometimes that was only a $7 remedy. So I wasn't into giving people loads of shakes. Anyway, 2 kids in, Hudson put on a lot of weight, a lot of the gifts that we'd got given he didn't wear. So I had a really expensive amount of baby clothes that I wanted to give. And so I decided in my heart that I was going to give it to a charity in the local area. Anyway, back then it was the Yellow Pages, and none of the charities really advertised in the Yellow Pages, and the ones that didn't want any baby clothes. So I asked them what they did need, and the answer was always really kooky and surprising. One charity needed sanitary items, but please don't donate just one type. We have an array of different needs. One charity needed undies. Please do not donate your used underwear because they just were inundated with used underwear. And then one charity needed closed-toe work boots, and I was like, why? And that's when I realized that charities don't have a warehouse full of stuff out the back. They're in tight little office spaces like you and me. They had no way to get their community to give them their needs. That was pre-Facebook. But we were also really, really, really bad at guessing what they needed. So I kind of workshopped with a few friends of mine in the charity space, because I said, I have a fridge I want to give. How do I give it to someone who really, really needs it and make sure it's the best practice way of doing it? And it took a long time. I realized that charities had to be the middleman because of the Privacy Act. So I'd run that idea past a few friends, and they'd say it's going to fail because charities aren't going to pick up and deliver it. And I said, but I think this is the only way that it can be done. Researched with a couple of charities. Anyway, got the GIVIT kind of model together where charities register, get vetted, and then they can request whatever it is they need for their community or their service delivery, like rooms for a creche or a domestic violence service. And everyone told me it would fail. Oh God, there was no yeses back then. Not even the social workers that I was working with. But I just believed that there was a need, and people like me wanted to give exactly what was needed. And then I just went down the road alone for quite a while.
But let's just talk about that, because I know this is probably that particular part of the journey was a bit longer than most people would realise. And the first couple of attempts sort of failed.
Yeah, literally
Actually,
failed building the websites. Yeah.
Yeah, the websites failed. And then you started to actually almost, in your own head, you started to feel your own intuition and say, no, right? There was this, you weren't sure about your intuition anymore. No one was sort of supporting you on this. But there just remained this one little sliver.
Yeah.
It's one little thing that said, hey, keep going.
Yeah. When I failed building the website, again, because I wanted this automatic function, and I had to, when I got the website, finished website, yes, it's not automatic. You have to log in, click a button, and it will automatically fall off the list, because I wanted donations, once they were donated, to disappear. So 2 people didn't donate the same thing. So I realized back then my language of automatic is very different from the tech world. So I took it very personally that I'd wasted money, and I was living off grocery. You know, my husband, I wasn't working then. I didn't have my own money anymore. So I actually put my husband on a diet to save money. So he's a beef producer, and I took him off beef and put him on Optifast. And, oh God, it was cruel. Anyway, so there was a lot of, you know, I really failed. And I was really mean. And no, making him save me money. Anyway, I remember at that moment, I think that I failed. I think that just said that everyone else was right. And I actually felt like everyone in my world knew that this was a stupid idea. Building a donation management platform sounds really risky, my husband said. Are we financially going to be affected by if something goes wrong? My mum was like, I don't think this is going to work. You're doing something that people don't even give cash online at this point. It was 2008-9. And I wanted people to donate a microwave. And then other people in my life were saying the charities aren't going to anyway. And then I just felt also that the universe was against me. Like I honestly felt like it was very much the vibe that I was going to fail. And I've seen a lot of people be at this point and give up. And I just went, no, I remember calling this charity, and she didn't even know what size work boots the man needed to pull him out of poverty and get him work on the roads. And when I gave the woman new underwear, you should have seen this charity's face. She made me feel like I was Santa Claus. Like I knew that there was a real gap, and I just went, no, they haven't seen what I've seen, and they haven't seen how hard it is to donate these brand new baby clothes that make a fortune on eBay. Like I know this. And to be honest with you, I just went, fuck it. Fuck everyone in the universe. I'm going to do it anyway. And that's when I made a decision, is I am not going to fail at this. And I had to use that for 10, 50. I had to still do so. GIVIT's kind of the point of no return now, but it's doing like 38,000 donations a month. So it's at the point now where I don't have to be terrified of it not having money for the next financial year. But there was so many times I got no, and I just went into the grit and just went, yeah, no. And Greg, those no's, sometimes they're delivered really nicely, and sometimes they're shit sandwiches. And I am the fastest at eating shit sandwiches. I'm really fast. And I also compliment people on when they give me a nice no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you. That was a really nice way to say no. Because there are some people who say no really meanly.
Yeah. What did you learn about your intuition during this period?
Oh, don't mess with me. I was a bit like, it's very much a feeling in the gut. So I am very feelings kinesthetic. And so I just knew. And when I went, I'm going to do it, the feeling in my gut felt better. So I've also wanted people to change the model. And sometimes I've thought to change the model, and it sit nervously with me. And so, yeah, no, it's definitely a kinesthetic gut feeling with me. Yeah. And there's a little bit of doggedness up in the Northern Hemisphere as well. There's a little bit of.
Just a little bit?
Yeah.
Hey,
And a cup of tea doesn't help. It doesn't hurt, I should say.
you touched on at the very beginning that donations can actually sort of be harmful or just get in the way. Like building this particular kind of organisation is really tricky and complex. Just talk to just some of the examples of how a donation from a well-meaning person who's really probably going out of their way to help, if they don't do it the right way, can actually cause more trouble than without it.
Yeah, well, there's a few really obviously well-meaning people. Like there's the ones like our nanny that says, I've been sleeping on that mattress for 20 years. It's perfectly fine to give. And you go, oh, Nana, no, work health and safety. And then you've got the people in a disaster that will just give a whole heap of inappropriate, poor quality stuff because they think the person who's lost everything will take anything. And then you've got the people who are just offloading their rubbish, or they're like someone donated to Fiji after they had a cyclone in 2016 and donated containers and container loads of expired cans of fish. Or after the Nepalese earthquake, someone left 9 ton of high heel shoes on the end of the runway and blocked all aid for 3 days. Like, so you've got kind of, well-meaning all the way through to thoughtless. But it was about in the drought, the very popular drought. Do you know when even Channel 9 and the drought agencies just went through the nuts? I can't remember what year that was now. Is it 2016, 17? But some well-meaning person donated a huge amount of stationery up north in far north Queensland, and the local newsagent person really didn't cope and got very mentally healthy and it was an emergency services were involved, and it was all very negative. And that's when I went, hang on, even well-meaning needed donations can actually do financial harm. And I'm also noticing that when an area's been impacted by donations, if white goods come in there and all of the stuff that's already, there's shops locally to do that, those shops can go broke. They've been financially impacted as well. So I remember about 2015, I wrote a memo, which I was very Jerry Maguire about it, I'm sure. And I sent it to the board and I sent it to the team, and everyone who volunteered and worked at GIVIT everyone was involved. And I said, I'm thinking that donations, even the requested through GIVIT donations, are actually going to do financial harm to these communities. So why don't we change it to be best practice and buy locally? And I think my gut was wrong here. I really thought that GIVIT was going to fail, because we were then jumping into the Shark Tank with the Red Cross, the big fund that, those Fab Four, I call them, the Lifeline, Salvos, people who we GIVIT actually work in partnership with. But now I was asking for cash too. We were asking for cash too. And it didn't go down a treat, can I say? Anyway, lo and behold, the local councils and local chamber of commerce is in impacted areas, like after Cyclone Debbie, and they just ranted and raved about GIVIT and said 100% of the money that you raise through that GIVIT is raising is being spent locally on needs that are requested locally by local charities for people impacted. Let's go. And I think that was a game changer. But you had to go, are we going to stay best practice, or are we going to do damage? And we all made the call. And it wasn't just me. The board immediately said yes. And the team went, yep, we can pivot. We'll do it different. In times of declared disasters and massive events, including drought, we only buy locally.
Now, Chief, do you want to take your game to a new level, or that of your people? Our mini MBA in leading high-performance teams now has the highest NPS of any mini MBA-style program in Australia at 91. Why? Because when you do the program, you get immediate and tangible performance improvement. You get dedicated time working on the business as opposed to away from it. We have a practical, real-world approach where we teach frameworks that you implement in your business as we go, and then you share and learn with your peers and with me as your coach. So the cost benefit is immediate, right? The weekly coaching sessions are live and you get a chance to ask questions direct to me and of your peers. And the time management is completely achievable because you're only spending a couple of hours a week on this at max, and those 2 hours are actually working on the business. So if you want to add something that really changes your game, that helps you become a real master of transformation and change, and to inspire your people and love your job, check out chiefmaker.com/mini MBA.
I'm just listening to this story and thinking there's a few different evolutions or like this step change that you had to go through. And that's actually not easy at all to do that.
I had a great team. Like I wasn't alone.
Yeah. But also having the awareness that's what's got to happen, because others would probably just plow on, right?
I'm wondering if it was going to ever happen anyway.
Yeah.
Because the power of GIVIT was just getting so big. I mean, and I was also getting contacted by communities outside of Australia saying, can we use GIVIT? We're being inundated, after hurricanes in America. And I was starting to kind of notice this pattern, and it was getting worse.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah.
I was uniquely placed, I suppose, to start noticing that. But the humanitarian aid agencies have been writing about it for years, but they only write papers about it, and you have to research down the Google rabbit holes to find them.
You said to me in the lead up to this interview about the need to have like a million conversations, and how even when you do mentoring with up and coming social entrepreneurs, you say I read from a million conversations and the ups and the downs and the shit sandwiches and the lows, right? So given like you said, you already say, well, stay in recovery, that's probably 10 million conversations. A million conversations where you're up to now. What do you say to yourself when you're halfway through a call and it's a shit sandwich or it's going to be?
Yeah, well, I get them all the time. Oh God, just 100% with the federal government. Oh my God. What I do, I go, there's a few things. Like I just go, okay, but I am now building a global donation management platform, and just the cynicism. It's just, GIVIT, that's a shit sandwich. I've got the flavor right. I just add Tabasco, a bit of sriracha. Yeah. I know that with the global donation management platform, I will get 10 million no's. Yeah. They won't know the value of it like Australian governments and state governments. Now, GIVIT's now funded by most of the state governments, and we work in partnership with them in disasters. We prevent the unsolicited donations. We then work with the charities, make sure that their needs are met, help the people in need get the things they need quickly, and then they move on to the next phase of recovery. And we're there for the long tail of recovery. So you really need like an innovative, big brain person in the government, which is bureaucracy, not bureaucracy, it's bureaucracy, to understand the value. But now they do. Yeah. And now going to international communities, I'm going to just have to start over again. But we've got GIVIT for the proven working model. But I'm just going to but this time I made an absolute commitment to not do it with that I'm not going to fail grit. I'm actually doing this one with ease. Yeah. Because otherwise I'm not going to do it. If I'm going to just do this because I'm joyful, like to the point where I'm actually so happy right now. I actually thought I should go and see my GP because I'm manic, maybe because I'm so happy all the time. Mind you, I popped my tire yesterday and I was unhappy. So I thought, this is good. I need to be balanced. I'm doing it with ease. I'm now onto the 6th final phase of the build, and I haven't lost a night's sleep, which that was the total opposite with GIVIT.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I just think of the 10 years I was CEO, I don't think I slept for 7.
Wow.
I was on a rocket that I couldn't afford. GIVIT was just growing so fast. I just didn't have any money because it's not a direct service provider. It's kind of like a charity for charities, and there was just no funding. body for it. And there still is. There's no funding for recovery at all. It's a not-for-profit.
Yeah.
And basically, so far, I'm just putting Glenn on a very big diet, and and I've got a few supporters, but it's I'm just doing it with ease. Greg, I'm not sure if it will, I'm not 100% sure I'll succeed, but I know I've got 10 million conversations in me.
Yeah. Can you just talk about this, another part of this journey, which was hard, and that in your own words, you don't look like the kind of person who should run a not-for-profit. Can you just talk a bit about that? You shared a bit with me prior, but what was that like?
Well, remember how I did the fashion illustration? I love fabric. Like, I literally go on holidays to places for fabric. I went to Nepal I went to India I'm kinesthetic. I don't know. And I don't know, Glenn started doing really well, my husband doing really well, and it gave me the opportunity to not shop just always at Kmart, which I love, but also, like nice name boutiques. And so I just started really just liking, just wearing nice jackets. And then I would go to, an event. I went to a university event one day, and I was just wearing my favorite dress, and just wearing matching shoes. And she just got up and she just said, "I'm sorry, you just can't represent the poverty, and you don't look like it." And she even alluded that I was too happy, and then I was thinking, and I am happily married. It did come up, and I just was a happy person. And she's like, I just think you're just not right for this role. I think that you're badly positioned and you should do something else. I think what she doesn't realize is half of the job at GIVIT is to support the charities, but the other support is to shake a tail feather and actually get their needs met. And that's my, go out, inspire women to give their washing machine before it's rattling and rolling. That was my job, and being CEO, but that was what I loved. I loved inspiring people to give, and just and inspire them just with a pair of soccer boots. You can change a community. I've seen it happen. And so tell them inspiring stories. And she just thought, and it was women who were mostly mean. I have had men not think I'm C-suite material at all. Particularly in my organization, I've had men just go, too happily married, too joyful. You're not a C-suite grumpy old lady, which you should be.
Yeah, well, I've met plenty of men that shouldn't be in C-suite roles.
I think
grumpy old ladies too, probably. So
yeah. Sometimes when I could go back in time, you go, damn, I wish I had said this, and damn, I wish I had said that. But comments like that just made me go, okay, I'm going to own who I am. I'm not going to change. I don't think I want to as well. Like, I just, but I would listen to the feedback, because it'd go around your head for a month, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would do. Yeah. Yes, there is that almost tall poppy thing going around too, which I think the more you try, the more you put yourself up there, the more people will have a shot at you, particularly in this country.
Do you think, Greg, that people who are really, really mean have just like mental health problems? Like, now I'm just realizing someone's just being really mean, and I just go, oh, that's not about me. And if it is, I'll own it and I'll sit with it and I'll process it. But like 90% of the time when someone's really mean to me now, I just go, oh shit, that's really must be tough being in that body that's just like overtly mean.
Yeah, there's real wisdom in that. I think people can really tie themselves in knots. By their own head and create a story that allows them to justify their existence. But it can be a bit of a vortex too. The more you listen to your own voice tell missing stories, then all of a sudden another person, the first interaction with them is coming from this place that they have no idea about. Right?
Yeah.
Aware of what's going inside your head, and all of a sudden you say, what on earth is going on here? Talking about.
Yeah. And what are they protecting, and what are they vulnerable around? And if I'm going to work with them long term, how, what can I help calm that down. My family and I were involved in a COVID event, and people tried to extort Glenn and I, and people were really mean to us. And it was funny. I just thought scared people are really mean. Like if they think I'm going to kill their mother, mate, that's when you get that rah. So yeah, there's definitely fear and anxiety and stuff. And so I think now I just don't own them. I certainly listen, and I'll take on what I can, but now I just go, it's not always me.
Yeah, sometimes it's worthwhile listening and go, well, where's the seed of truth in that? It's like feedback. Feedback is something you've always got to take with a little bit of a grain of salt. You've got to go, well, okay, there's an element of truth to it. You just seek the truth in it and go, okay, well, I can be. Maybe it's actually some of that isn't necessarily true, because only you know what's going on inside your own head.
Yeah.
You'll take that on and go, well, that's true. The other part, that actually might be more about that. So maybe there's another conversation I'm going to have with them to give some feedback back again. But if you're doing the hard yards internally and you're trying your very best to grow and be better every single day, and someone else on the other side is doing none of that, then I think you're in the right position now, I think.
Yeah. I think anxiety for me is the biggest sign. So I had an organization that I worked with, and every single time I opened up the email, I'd get anxiety. And damn it, I could not work it out. And anyway, I realized what the actual issue was. It was with someone in the organization. They made me feel, anyway, they're white-anting me. And like gaslighting. No, that's the one where they light little fires and make you feel crazy. I get those two confused. And it's probably a mix of both, let's just say. Yeah. That's no. And anyway, they left the organization, and believe it or not, but my joy went to 12 out of 10. And I was like, that anxiety was telling me the whole time, why didn't I listen? So I know this sounds stupid, but I'm really loving anxiety at the moment, because I'm like, ooh, okay. Because if I sort that out, I'll be even better.
Yeah, it's like the key to happiness, right?
Yeah.
Signal to say, hey, there's something.
I'd like the world to bring it on in little bits, not like whole big bits.
That's true.
I had a pretty adventurous flat tire on the side of the Yangon Killarney Road yesterday, and my anxiety was up for about 2 hours. So coming back from the farm. So, but thanks, universe. Just give it to us in little manageable bite sizes, please.
Hey, let's talk a bit about Recovere. You decided to take this on. It's a global platform like GIVIT, but more focused on disaster recovery. Is that right?
No, it is very much like GIVIT, but it's scalable to do disaster events, because I've got two parts of this. You want to enable communities and charities and not-for-profits to request what they want in peacetime, because then you've actually got lots of people requesting. And then when a disaster comes in, they scale up.
Sure.
So the model doesn't work unless you've got lots of not-for-profits using it all year round. So we're going to pilot in New Zealand, probably start working with domestic violence shelters and homeless shelters. They all scale up and do disaster recovery work if there's an event in their area anyway. And of course, then the big bodies like Red Cross and Save the Children, they would be the ones that fly in and fly out. They'll be requesting as well.
Yeah, sure.
But I think that it is really designed to support communities to manage the chaos of donations that happens. It is wildly known as the biggest headache in a disaster. So a community gets hit by a disaster, the community goes into the emergency services go into the response phase of making sure that there's clean water, electricity and food and roads. They would say probably a few more things that's not on my radar, and because I really work in the recovery. But a lot of people get very grouchy that that's not fast enough. And so someone will say, I will take donations down at my house, and chaos, and they'll send donations down to recovery centres. I've seen in the floods of Bundaberg years ago, sending trucks up from Adelaide with no address except Bundaberg, and they just lob and land, and the truck driver goes, "Where's the recovery center?" And he dumps it all there and goes back. Like it's really uncoordinated. And so with Recovery, as with GIVIT, community leaders could go, yes, we'll take that, but just register it on Recovery. And so all of our community groups and local councils can see what's on offer. And we just do it without the chaos of warehousing. It is, I know it's going to be a donation management platform to support communities all year round, but it's that actual crisis of donation chaos. That's my jam. That's the reason why I'm doing it.
What are the additional complexities in taking this model into this multi-jurisdictional environment?
Oh, I just can't tell you how many problems there are. Like Tonga, how am I actually going to get the donations to people in Tonga? They don't have a mail system, they don't have a post box out front. And we've solved a few of these problems. What about when someone's in Kiev and they need a pram, but 4 days later they're in the UK because of the biggest humanitarian movement that we've ever seen on the globe happened at the start of the Ukraine war. So every single time there is a disaster event, I just improve the model so that I can solve those problems. So I've done maybe just under 10 design thinking workshops around those major problems. And then I've done many more ideation workshops to solve those problems. Sometimes the solutions were so complex we needed to get Lego, and we wouldn't believe how crazy our brains had to go to solve these problems. And we loved it. It was a creative challenge and a half. There's lots more problems, obviously. Another thing is, what about just finding the actual authentic NGOs and authentic not-for-profits in a place like India? Like where the system's not as strong as in Australia and New Zealand, where we have the ACNC and a charity body, making sure that we're all doing the right thing. So it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I'm glad you're at the helm.
I'm thinking that I might be best placed to do it. I think there's a lot of people who work at GIVIT who would be even better than me, actually. But I think I'm best placed to do it, again, because I can do 1 million conversations, 10 million conversations. I know how to do it. I do know how to do it. But I also know that each area will have significantly different culture. And I've done 8.5 million donations. So I think that I understand what can offend and what doesn't offend.
Yeah, sure.
And
what's the vision?
I just want to make sure the right people get the right things in the right way. And I also want to make sure that people like you and me could have an absolutely direct impact on a disaster event that's happening overseas. So, there's a flood in Bangladesh. I don't want you to post your microwave over there. I want you to just spend $50 and buy one locally. You're literally buying one through the marketplace, and you're going to receive the details of it being delivered. And it's a donation, which is great, but you're literally buying a microwave locally, which will be in their local language with the local cords on the end of it. So it works in their home, and they have the warranty, and the local business is doing well now.
Yep. Yeah.
So I know it sounds all really hard, but I'm just doing it. Just one donation a day. It just happens, one donation a day. Yeah. That'll make me happy.
Wow. What a remarkable journey.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's good to come out the other side alive. Alive and well.
Yeah, alive and the happiest you've probably ever been. How good is that?
Yeah, no, definitely the happiest I've ever been. Yeah.
Chief, more from Juliette in a minute. Now, recently, we continued our best of series by featuring Group CEO of Nuix, Jonathan Rubenstein. We spoke about bringing values to life, compressing time, and the 3 key principles of motivation. Here's what Jonathan had to say about evolving as a person and a leader.
What I do know is I would like to leave this world in a better place than I came into. And so my purpose is one, and the older I've got, it's become much less selfish and much more community-based. It's much more around my family, the environment I live in, And so I think that if you look at those layers of an onion, if you want, where, initially it was myself, maybe my wife, and then my kids, I think, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to think about how do I create a world and how can I contribute to a world that is better.
You can listen to that just outstanding conversation with Jonathan by going to chiefmaker.com/329. All right, Chief, let's get back to the wonderful and unstoppable Juliette Wright. I don't know if you've probably already answered this, to be honest, but what are you most proud of?
Okay, you got the baby, you got the kids, and I went mustering on the weekend and didn't stuff it up. I'm proud of that right now.
Nice.
Yeah, because you can stuff up. I can stuff it up. I think my family and I, the kids are 15 and 17, and we're all just doing really well. I know that that's not always the case, but we're all doing really well. And we're supporting each other's dreams. And I suppose right now I'm really proud of the fact that I am not lying to you. I am doing this with ease, and I am telling the truth that it's just the funnest, and I'm loving who I'm working with, and I love my relationship with GIVIT. It's like I'm the sun. I just come in and I'm happy, but I'm not like on the planet doing the rates and the rubbish and being the mayor and doing all that yucky, cranky stuff, being the CEO. I'm really loving all the parts of my life right now and how they work together, because I'm also a grazier on the side. We specialize in Wagyus. And so I've got a lot of shifting priorities right now, and I'm still doing all of that with these as well. And teenagers.
Wow.
I know.
That's cool.
If anyone has any advice about how to stop a 15-year-old boy grunting, I really just find me on LinkedIn, please. What? Help me out.
I got two boys, and they're unbelievably cool, but they're just boys.
Yeah.
I can't.
Anyway, all my kids are doing really well. They're really happy, but we're in the midst of that hormonal change.
Hey, listen, okay, if you could form the ultimate executive team of any well-known leader from any time in history, who would your first three picks be, and what role would you have in it?
Okay, so I'm just going to keep this humorous because I've really not really well. Okay, so firstly, I did this Mikkel Files Black Leadership course in 2013, and I think that's someone who you should talk to. But he's not doing the leadership programs anymore. And Andy Mikkel really dug into Nelson Mandela and how leadership is lonely. Do you remember when he actually said that we're going to get rid of apartheid, but violence just escalated, and people getting murdered every night, and fires and riots, everything got worse before it got better. And I always stood with Nelson's true grit. I know that this is best for my country, and I know that we can do this. So I would definitely have him on my stakeholder management committee. And Gina Reinhardt and a few of the top 10 billionaires in Australia on my fundraising committee.
That'd be good.
I'm really saddened that I can't think of one Australian Prime Minister. I went down a rabbit hole with that. So, and honestly, my CTO, Emma, who I'm working with now, I wish I could just afford her forever, and I just give her any role in the organization, because we just bounce joy off each other. I absolutely love her a lot.
Well, let's go. That's fine. Let's go with those three. What has been the best advice a mentor has given you?
That's easy. I think you are best defined by what you say no to.
Yeah.
Rather than what you say yes to.
Yep, that's a good line.
And so here to the tables turn, and Juliette starts giving out no's.
Your turn to deliver a shit sandwich.
Yeah, I say it's so nice though. Don't you worry. I'm a good no.
What's your number one interview question when looking for people to join your team?
Well, disaster recovery is quite intense. Donations can come in like right when the people see the images on the television, their heart opens up and part of their humanity wants to give. That's when we capture their generosity and they pledge what they have to offer. And then it takes a while for the charities to go out and do their outreach and find out exactly what people need.
Yeah.
In donation management, it's never quite even. So you've got to deal with competing priorities. In those first tight days, there's lots of things happening and things are out of balance. And so my questions would be around competing priorities. It's really important for people to be able to work under pressure because of a lot of the agencies that we support are under very intense pressure.
Yeah, sure. Number one book you recommend for professionals?
Oh boy. I love Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. Because remember in one of the places in the book, he goes, just never, ever, 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 ever give up.
Yeah. And it was like the Nike story is that for a long time before it was.
Yeah. So he can do hard things.
Yeah, he can. If you could lead any company in the world other than your own, what would it be? Any organization?
I know this sounds crazy, but I'm fascinated by Facebook. I don't want to do Meta. But I would be, I'd like Facebook. I love that it connects people, but I know that there's danger in that, and I'd love to do a deep dive into that.
Yeah, cool. What is a final message of wisdom and hope for the next generation of chiefs?
When the universe and everyone in it says it's going to fail, don't ever, 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 ever give up. If you know it's going to work. I heard a quote the other day, when it's turbulent and it's horrible and you're rising, you're rising because you're doing something disruptive.
Yeah, sure.
So the turbulence is the sign not to give up.
Yeah, fantastic. Hey, Julia, this has just been fantastic. I appreciate your time, your wisdom, and your incredible contribution. Like, something you can be just so proud of. Thank you again.
Thank you, Greg.
Chief, that sums it up for this week. What a remarkable story. What an incredible woman. All the links and resources, get on board, support the amazing work that Juliette is doing. chiefmaker.com/330 is where you'll find all the resources and links to get involved. And if you'd like to stay in touch with Chiefmaker, just go to chiefmaker.com/subscribe. Now, Chief, if you're yet to rate the episode and subscribe, I hope you'll do so soon. It helps others see the magnificent value that the chiefs and gurus on the show bring to their life and career. So make sure you hit subscribe on your podcast app now, give it a 5-star rating if you think it's worthy, and leave a short review about your favourite episode. Righto, Chief, as always, remember to stay epic.